directly to Elijah because he say, I'm not talking to the police because they already know this. They the ones who told me.
Wow.
Right? So if he ain't talking to the police and he ain't talking to ain't defraud other people. Right? So when they can't tell you what they want to tell you because you got motherfuckers like me that's gonna tell you that's a goddamn lie. That shit ain't true. I don't know where they got it from. But this is where you find the real shit at. Right? So that put all these motherfuckers knuckles to the ground. When the real leader gone, anybody can fill the position long as he look the part. When the real leader come, they all got to take a back seat and the motherfuckers know it. And leadership is, as leadership does, is what you can see into the future. You got to know how to operate like that board game without hitting the motherfucking buzzer. That means you got to be surgically precise with your precise moves. And the more precise you is, as Sun Tzu said, the greatest victory is the victory without combat. That means that you beat your enemy mentally first. Because the mental victory precedes the physical victory. So if you can defeat him in the mind, you done already defeated him before the battlefield ever even come into play. Now all you got to do is take it a step further and eliminate the battlefield from the equation. It's a battlefield of the mind at that point. Right? And from the battlefield of the mind, you know, that's when you start getting them clowns flipping out into the open, thinking that they masterminds and they really just deceiving the people with flashy minds. Just because a motherfucker got pretty words, can talk loud, fast, hit you in the stomach with his words with an emotional fervor, don't mean that motherfucker know goddamn shit about what he talking about. And how you know is they'll start trying to not talk bad about the motherfucker telling the truth, but they'll try to ignore it or shy away from it, evade the answer to the question of who this motherfucker is. They don't want to talk about that shit. Because now they know they going to have to bow down to something greater than that bullshit they've been running on the people. And that's the goddamn truth. And when you hit with the truth and you start showing people that the truth is being told, then motherfuckers' feelings be really hurt at who you find out, but knew they was lying when they was telling that goddamn lie that they told when they lied about the bullshit they lied about. That big white lie was a little white lie that created a whale of a problem. And that little white lie was that we came on ships. But the ancestors that was here when the motherfuckers came said they didn't see no goddamn ships. Because they knew that they was going to run this bullshit, they needed a record of it. Them stupid motherfuckers was stupid enough to say that our ancestors' cognitive dissonance was so great when they came on their ship that they didn't even see the ships in the ocean. That don't even make sense. They've been trading with Khan Mansa Musa. They've been trading with motherfucking the Chinese emperors. How in the fuck they don't know what a boat look like? So when these people come and they say they don't see no ships, they got to be talking about a slave ship because we still can't find one. Right? We find what you call deteriorated relics of one, but we got a 5,000-year-old ship from Egypt that was under the fucking sand some goddamn where. They got a 5,000-year-old ship from Egypt. They got a 15,000-year-old ship from China that they didn't pull from under the Pacific. And we still can't find no slave ship, and that shit wasn't even that goddamn long ago. And the slave ships they do have is, they said it's a replica, and the replica is from a drone. This shit doesn't make sense. They're not going to keep telling us that we dumb because we talk country. We not going to keep buying that shit. They not going to keep fucking with us and thinking that this shit doesn't have a consequence. Because the consequence is not obvious on the face, what they call a prima facie consequence. That doesn't mean that the mechanisms under the bottom, the cogs in the wheels ain't falling from under the machine. The machine might look like it's whole on the outside, but if you start looking under the mechanics, you
Call
find
from Q.
that motherfucker don't have no engine. That motherfucker don't got no drivetrain. That motherfucker ain't got no interior. It ain't got no sound system. It's just a shell of a system that used to be. That was always a fraud created in the minds of the people by some very some sick talking psychopathic maniacs who decided to usurp the people of the land and steal their birthright. The only thing about it is they always got to give you a way to discover it. And if Big Mama tell me to find the problem, I'm a bloodhound on the case. All them country boys know what a bloodhound gonna do. He gonna sniff that shit out. He gonna sniff that shit out. I don't care where you put it at. If it's around, the bloodhound gonna find it. Big Mama gonna tell you what to sniff out, we gonna sniff it out. Right? Them country boys know the land. We know how to track a motherfucker across the land. We can watch the animals and know where you at from 1,000 miles away because we talk to the fucking animals, idiots. The animals is generated within the field. The only difference between what you think and what an animal think is changing the radio station. That's it. If you can learn how to change the radio station on a totem dial, you can tune in to all of the animals and they gonna tell you what's going on clean across the land. They're going to tell you the condition of all of the people clean across the land by tuning in to their frequency. And only the master of masters can tune in to every animal. And that's one of my curses. I'm Dr. Doolittle. While you think I'm doing little, I'm talking to a lot. You looking at me laughing in the 3D, but I'm looking at you in the 12D talking about what the fuck is his problem. He must don't know what I'm doing. Right? Motherfuckers always know it until it's time to show it. They don't got no receipts then. Right? So, this is that was the topic today. It was to give fair warning to people fucking with God's chosen people. The jewels of God is these priestesses and these princesses, and these princes that rising up to become the next generation. And some of them got higher spiritual rank. All of the old souls come back and they don't have the same tolerance for that simplistic, narrow-minded bullshit, right? So, I got a question in here. Let me see what it say. Okay, so he asked me, my sister Robin was born with a veil on her face too. In the females, the females born with the veil on are priestesses by birthright. And they're born to be a priestess, which is they are some kind of public type person. They have a certain type of outreach to people, hold families together. They be the glue. For the males, they become normally some kind of psychic seer, and some of those females be very highly psychic, born with the veil. That's always a sign of the spiritual class in our culture when they say you born with the veil on your face. Ain't no such thing as most powerful clans. You have clans that have more priests, or you have clans that have more warriors, but we used to do shit mano a mano, and sometimes we would have two warriors that would fight for hours non-stop, but we stopped doing that a long time ago when people started getting soft. So it became what we call today modern sports and athletics, Olympiad games. But we used to have different people with challenging different fields to show their prowess. Like blacksmith would have a contest and they might forge a sword or some kind of weapon or some newfangled idea they came up with at the contest, and they had to forge it under the eyes of so many apprentices, which they actually teaching them how to do it. And so we had professions that developed a certain way that is still seen in the modern culture, but because most of us we can't watch the long game and we can't watch the real time game, right? We can only watch the short memory game. The short memory game can only go a couple of minutes back in time. They're like goldfish with short memories. So we don't remember the culture like that, or we can't see the consistent repeats from the ancient culture to the modern culture in the learning to read the different petroglyphs that tell certain stories from an era that's no longer here. The problem that we always have in academia is taking sides and studying the knowledge of historical events as told by historical personas. Because when you understand history, it's just as much theatrical as it is actual. So you have to learn to read it with an objective perspective, and you have to read it like a tarot card as more so than an actual event, where you can get the energy substance from the lesson and you can forget about the one-sided view of the lesson. If you get the energy substance of the lesson, that means that you have to see it from first, second, third, and fourth person perspective. You have to also see it from what you call the overhead perspective, or the overstanding, and the underbelly perspective, which is the understanding. When you see all those different angles without taking sides, then you have created a crystal reservoir of knowledge based around that one topic that can branch off into many different subjects without you losing the essence of the lesson, right? So, Sekhmet is the mother of all of the lion or cat clans. So you got, you know about Bast and you know about Sekhmet, but every cat, right? Every cat species have a goddess that represents that cat species. Like, it's just it's the way that it's set up. Because they are totems. The totem animal and the system of the totem is the earliest system of spirituality, and that came from a time when we first started studying nature itself. And then we first started studying nature itself, we got into classifying people by the animal nature that they studied and how he interacted in nature, and that became that clan's or that class totem animal, right? And this is why you have mascots on varsity jackets to this day. And these totem animals then formed into totem groups, right? So you have the bird clans, which falls under Thoth, which falls under the mental reservoir of air. And Aquarius is ruled by air, but it's also the water bearer. So it's the waters from what we call the rivers of heaven, which is the stream of water that runs through the upper atmosphere. It's an actual river. And you can look it up. It's called an atmospheric river. So this is what we talk about. The Aquarius, this river will overrun its banks, which causes water anomalies because the system is out of balance, it tilts the water out of the jug, so to speak. Now, it's a whole lot of other symbolism that go with that. But when you understanding that the changing of the times become significant with which zodiac sign will be needed by that birth trait, the character that's going to be born into the child born under this zodiac trait at this time will be needed to perform this function in order to help us all recover our balance back in nature. Because when we get out of balance with ourselves because of the vices of man, we have to use a calibration to nature and what's natural to regain the balance within the humanities as we speak. So we weed out what we call the nefarious traits, characters, and characteristics, and we embellish and encourage the benevolent traits and dispositions and characteristics. But Bast is the like the lion is the king of the jungle because Bast is the queen of the cats. And the king of the jungle he ain't shit without his pride, and his pride is in his family, and his family is ran by his wife, right? And the pride of the wife is in the kitchen, and the kitchen is the heart of the home. And home is where the heart is, and the heart of the home is where the ones you reside with make it a home. It's an environment. It's a feng shui, right? So that's what we all trying to get back to. So I'm going to take a couple of guests before I end this. Styles by Nina. Always dancing, make this shit so... Oh, I'm getting carried away over here. So I'm going to give her a couple minutes, see if she come in. I see you, Christina. Yeah, so... Yeah, y'all gotta learn to leave God's chosen ones alone. Like Christina. She got the covering, the army of the sisters are having... Y'all don't really want... Like, motherfuckers think they want to bob. Y'all don't really want to do that. You know, she mind her business, you know, do her little thing in her lane, and we follow the rules of the culture. Don't get in grown folks' business if you don't know what you're talking about, right? If it ain't hurting the kids, and you stay the fuck out of their business. And when y'all start getting into that shit, y'all don't know what y'all be getting into. Okay, so Laffy 10, come on in and see what you're gonna say to the clan.
Crystal baby first? Yes, sir. Back when I big dog. What kind of game are you playing? I'm not playing the game. See, when I came at you honest and direct, you wouldn't give me the time of day. You tell me what kind of game you play.
So the question I'm looking at is, what is the purpose of a seer? We're not gonna go through that. I think she was having a conversation and accidentally accepted too soon. So, somebody asked me what was the purpose of a seer. The purpose of the seer is the seer's job is to give people guidance to be able to overcome obstacles and difficulties in their life. You can see ahead of the time so that you can offer a priestly service to people to help navigate through life. This is a school. The seers are your hall guides to the classes, right? And so people need to know when they register for the next class, they have to go to the seer sometimes when they can't see it on their own. That's when you get stuck in life and you don't know what to do or where to look for guidance, and then you go to a seer. Most people look for seers when they can't figure out nothing else to do. They don't look for seers before that, unless that's the culture that they grew up around, like a gypsy household or something like that. But generally, in the mainstream society, the average person won't go to a seer until they don't know what to do with themselves. At that point, they reaching for straws. They'll try anything. And when they go to the seer, sometimes if they sincere and they tell them, from the heart, they can change their life for the better and give a whole new spin on how somebody living. Uh, how can you tell if you real? Poke yourself with a pen, and if it hurt, yep, you real.
GM taking the survey and agreeing to those terms puts the company on notice, and it affects every auto worker globally. Chrysler got a special case to be dealt with at Chrysler's negotiation. All of them are going to be dealt with at the same time because they all coming together because they already got their instructions. They waiting on the worker to be able to perceive salvation of his labor in front of them. That's what they waiting on. They not going to deal until the worker wake up to the fifth dimension. Then they going to deal. But the side effect on the negative side, the longer it take the worker, they have a negative effect about to emerge within days. And it's not going to be pretty. To avert the negative effect, we have to activate the positive. Alchemy. You turn the negative into the positive. You turn the shit into the gold. And this is how we do it. I hope it's clear enough for y'all to understand how it works, and that y'all participation, every single person that take the survey and share the survey, is instrumental in taking us into the fifth dimension. Breaking the fucking matrix. We all get our eyes open now. This is how we do it. So hopefully we all in on it. Because whoever think this is a game or they think that it's something other than the truth, they gonna be stuck here. Because they gonna be stubborn and hard-hearted and hard-headed. And mama said a hard head make a soft ass. I don't know if it make it soft, but I know it make it so. I've experienced that. So from here, let's see how many people really want to get from under the oppressor's foot. It's real simple. I couldn't make it no easier than a 8-9 question survey. That's the easiest thing I could come up with. I couldn't come up with nothing easier to get everybody on one page about some righteous shit other than the survey. That's 8, not even 10 questions, maybe 9. But I couldn't come up with a simpler way to move us into the fifth dimension than to make everybody want to be treated fair at work. That's it. I can't think of nothing simpler. That's the simplest thing I could think of. So if this can't go viral, I don't know. Y'all people in trouble. Because I'm going to take my little 2-3 people that I done got. We out of here. All right, we can leave. I'm going to the fifth. Regardless. Yep, Chanel, you right. This it. This the big bang. This the resurrecting day. When this go viral, hopefully we go viral before these sleeper cell police start activating. That's the thing that I'm more concerned about right now than the worker. Because when they start activating these killer cops, whew, it's not going to be pretty this time. Because I got soldiers everywhere that's also been awakened. And they act on their own without orders in the face of injustice. This ain't like it was when Obama was leaving office and George Soros was trying to get that shit started so that they could take over. This ain't the same. So we can't allow this tragedy to begin to unfold when we have an opportunity to do something about it. This is how you fix it. This is what we do.
We use the alchemy. We use the tools that was given us. We use the tools we used against us before, and we use them to our advantage. The same shit they use to oppress us, we use to break the bonds of oppression. It's right here in front of us. It's not hard. Take the survey, share the survey. 100 Monkeys is 100 UAW workers that's on strike. Mastermind Group are all of the people that take the survey in support of them. The first column, make it clear in y'all posts, the first column is agree. The second column is disagree. We needed a list of demands. International didn't have a comprehensive list, so that's comprehensive. That's the beginning. That's just to get the negotiation started and to get the mastermind group woke. So that all these motherfuckers will wake up and see I ain't never been crazy and I ain't never been the enemy. And I always been formed 1,000% out the gate from word go. And I worked with them side by side. And I even went above and beyond for some of them. And even helped them on other stuff that ain't got shit to do with work. Because they good people. And all they need to be treated is fair. And all this miserable shit can be gone. Treat the worker fair. That's it. Don't nobody want no extra shit. Don't nobody looking for no handout. Give me what I earned. Don't take the bread out of my children's mouth and expect me to sit the fuck here silent. How am I going to explain that to my son? I didn't say nothing and I knew the answer. How do I explain that as a man when my son become a man and say, Dad, you knew the answer? You knew how to lay this shit down and you didn't do it? What's wrong with you? He gonna be like Huey on damn, Pops, you old bitch ass Pops. I ain't finna be bitch ass Pops. I'm saying something. And I'm not gonna shut the fuck up. I'm gonna keep saying something until them people that's out there busting their ass for these pig trough filling bonuses, these executives getting flying all over the goddamn world, and a motherfucker can't retire with artificial hips and shit. What the fuck kind of shit is that? There's no righteousness in that, and there's no justice in that, and there's no fairness in that. Compensate the worker everywhere, and you heal the planet. Because when people can properly take care of home, they can properly take care of their family. And when you got a properly taken care of family, you produce a proper society. It's all fucking relative. Unified field theory. Mastermind group. 100 monkey effect. Execute. That's the plan. I couldn't make it no simpler than a little survey. That's the proposal. That's the proposal. So let's see what we can do. And I'm going to cut it here. Y'all know what to do from here. I did my part. So we start at 8:55. Secrets to learning. Yesterday, I got the key to the miseducation of the Negro. So today, I'm going to unlock a couple mental padlocks for us. I'm going to show us the method of breaking the cycle of perpetual ignorance. All right? So I'm going to get my invites in. So if y'all believe in educating your child correctly, educating them in a manner where they're not victims to a system of oppression, they can move beyond all of the tools and the techniques of oppression placed in their path. This will open the mind up. Now, I got a couple of things that I'm going to suggest, but I want to go over a little bit about the learning curve, what it means, how it works, and how do we get from learning something new to a better position, a more optimum position of incorporating new information at a human's pace. So, in our current system of education, as you seen my post last night, there is a concerted effort to dumb us down. If they know how to dumb us down, then they know how to prop us up mentally. They know how to exalt us educationally, right? So once you know how the mind works and you know what the mind does when it files information, it gives you a better understanding of how the mind can be programmed. So I'm going to do a couple more invites here and we're going to get off into the proceedings this evening. People love, to do stuff for the children. So the education should incorporate a couple of things. Parents now are taught to teach their children how to be oppressed. Now, that don't even sound like some shit we ought to be teaching our kid, but we don't know we teach it to them. So we teach our children how to be oppressed. In order to successfully be oppressed, you need to ignore the oppressor. You need to ignore the oppression. And anyone who comes to try to break the condition, you must rebel against that motherfucker before he wake your ass up. Right? Hey, Carolyn. So, the mind is the same format as a computer in 3 parts. Short-term memory. Short-term memory in a computer is called RAM, RAM. And the RAM's job is to temporarily hold the file until it can be stored successfully in the hard drive. The more short-term memory you have, the more you can hold at the forefront of the mind before you push it into the filing system in the hard drive. What we call our hard drive is the subconscious mind, where it stores the data. The subconscious mind can only hold so much information, and then it takes you into what they call the universal stream of consciousness, where all of the masters' minds go. Right, so we sit here, we tell our kids we don't teach them nothing at home. We let them learn everything at school, and we don't do no follow-up at home, and we think that that's it. We did our part. We sent them to school this morning. Sending them into a cattle learning system, that's not normal. The 4-wall method of learning, you can study about it with Dr. Neely Fuller's Breaking the Chains of White Supremacy, the United Independent Compensatory Code. The 4 walls method is designed that way, so while the learning process is taking place, the actual 3-dimensional visual sight is limited to the 4 walls in the room. If you start looking at schools now, you'll notice that they're starting to black the windows out. They're starting to black the windows out because children's minds naturally gravitate toward the open space of outside. This is where the mind of the child naturally, especially before they're like 8. So I got a message this morning that let me know what my video should be about. Somebody asked me for some educational tips for a 10 to 12-year-old young girl. Well, anybody that got a child 8 to 12, take one summer and get them a speed reading class between 8 to 12. When they go through that class, they're going to learn speed reading. It normally takes about 3 months to get it down pat where you are a successful speed reader. Right? Now, why do you teach them speed reading? Look-see reading slows the brain down. When you read 1 or 2 words at a time, you have to wait for the brain to process the words individually. Well, speed reading does something to the mind. It creates what you call a panoramic view of the page. And what that means is, instead of just taking the words that's on the paper, the brain in speed reading paint the whole picture that the page is describing in a matter of the same amount of time that it took them to read one word. This allows them several things. This allows them to create a larger RAM, short-term memory, a more organized hard drive, long-term memory, and once the short-term memory and the long-term memory are both working in what you call an optimum fashion, then the brain begins to feed off information that it can't get in the 3D. We call it fourth dimensional resonance, or we call it the superconscious mind. Before they trap the spirit beings in the physical bodies with the science, the fourth dimension is where we kept what you call Akashic records, and we had access to them mentally from here. The physical body, you're not what you've been told you are. You are not a body first, you see. You existed before this body, and you're going to exist when the body is gone. The body allows you to experience a third dimensional fixed position reality in a form that's conducive to the reality you live in. The problem happens is when you lose sight of who you are in elementary. Now, the speed reading techniques are various. Evelyn Woods is the older version. Howard Berg is a newer version, and there's many in the middle. And there's some even newer than Howard Berg now, because he's been out over 20 years. But he's one of the best. We all heard this guy, Kevin Trudeau, cures your doctor don't want you to know about, more cures and stuff like this. But back in the 80s, he used to air infomercials and promote product for Mensa. Mensa is a organization of geniuses that that get all drafted into this place, and they all help each other succeed in life without having all they shit took by the system. So it had to be a smart motherfucker to start that. Okay, so now, once they got speed reading down, one summer before they go into junior high, get between 8 and 12, get them speed reading class for that summer. That one summer of speed reading is going to be equivalent of 8 years of education. Now, what do they do once they learn the speed reading? You get them a comprehensive dictionary of the English language if you speak English. If your first language is French or Spanish or Arabic, whatever it is, once they got the speed reading part down, they don't need nobody telling them what to think. They're learning how to think in this manner. They need to know what all of the words in the language they speak. You give them the dictionary on the weekends if they don't have homework. We're trying to get out of this four walls education method anyway. But if they don't have homework, their homework would be to read the dictionary. You know? And then as they get better at speed reading, they'll be able to run through a 2,000 page dictionary in about 45 minutes to an hour. But you want them to read the dictionary of the language at least 7 times as soon as possible once they have adjusted their or has assimilated their speed reading. The practice book should be the dictionary because the words and the understanding of the words, context, and usage is more important than learning correct spelling. You can correct the spelling But once they get it in their brain, they're going to all be spelling bee caliber spellers anyway, because all of the words are there. The dictionary begins each definition with the word, addiction. This is why it's called a dictionary. A diction key, how the word is pronounced, and then a descriptive explanation of what the word means. Now, one of the things that I found kind of odd was I found out when I first started teaching myself how to read that if a person doesn't know what a word means and he go look it up, he end up finding out what another word means because it's a word in the definition he don't know. This is called chain referencing, something like they do in Bible study with the Thompson chain reference. They study word for word, this word lead to that word, to that word, to that word in the book. So you look this word up, it's a word in definition you don't know, you look that word, if you know you spit it. But by giving them the tools early, right, they got the speed reading and their minds can expand now. Now they need what formula? The formula is the words. So that's why you get them the dictionary. The one I got is called the Webster's Unabridged Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English Language. Is about 4.5 inches thick, if not 6. So I read that. I've been reading that book for years. Only thing I've been reading, other book I read that long, excuse me, is the Bible, because my mom had me reading the Bible. And so once I go through there, we get the speed reading down, we get the dictionary down. What's next? You get them a book of mathematical formulas to study. Tell them don't try to remember it. When the pale people kick their ass out, they double back on their ass because they was slicker than grease. So now they all in Switzerland. Well, they was in Switzerland, hiding out, financing all of the wars on both sides. Yep, the Sibyls. Yep, those girls wasn't no joke. And you know, from the teachings of the Sibyls is where the Candace Queens and those other warrior queen tribes from the Middle Eastern region, where all they come from, they all was pretty much like splinter groups from the Sibyls. The Sibyls was disrupted. Let me tell y'all the story of the Sibyls. This what happened to the Sibyl priests. When they came here, the Sibyl priestesses was the wives of the Pharaoh. And they didn't just sit around and put on makeup all day. They did shit. And so what happened was the invaders came and sent imposter bitches, them riding crotch bitches up in there, and they got close to what they call the hive queen, bust that bitch in the head. And then they went and did a broken mirror spell on a crossroad, right? And the broken mirror spell was the spell to break up the sisterhood of the Sibyls, right? They were a different sisterhood than the Gorgons who set up Greece. And but that's what happened to the Sibyls. That funky crotch, rotten crotch, bust down chick throwing conjure spells has kept the Sibyl queens from reforming, because nobody would make that slut close the conjure. So part of the work was I made her close that motherfucking conjure. So she closed that motherfucker, because I wasn't going to stop pounding her motherfucking emotional chakras, her heart chakra and her throat chakra and her brain chakra, till she motherfucking reversed the goddamn conjure. Because the same motherfucker that did the conjure is the same motherfucker got to undo it. When I was found the priestess from Haiti, I thought I was done. I wasn't done. I had to find Tucson. Now I got to find Bookman. But one of the people on here already know who the Bookman is, reincarnated. I just haven't did the analysis yet, but I'm going to be doing it over this week, because I got to know the basic understanding of how to find the Bookman in this era. Shit, that motherfucker might be me. the way shit look. I hope it ain't, because I'm tired of being every motherfucker I don't want to be. If I start coughing, it's not a cold. It's the chronics. Just so y'all know. Smoking that icky or the sticky. Somebody had requested to join, where they must have unsubscribed. So back to Garvey. Wait a minute, let me see what else in here. Wakanda is Haiti. Actually, Haiti and Dominican Republic. And that's Wakanda. And what they call it in Wakanda, they call it, I forgot the name of the metal. But that shit is in Haiti. It's the same shit. Right? Why don't bitch ass Sinetter don't lock in with you? They don't want truth. They want money. I never had a conversation with Sinetter. I never watched none of his stuff either. I just was never. That wasn't my direction to study. So I don't know nothing about them dudes. So if I tell you what they want, then I'm just lying, because I don't know shit about them, because I'll never watch them. The only one I know of is General Seti, who Young Pharaoh used to be with, and he the fucking truth. So rest of them cats, I don't really know nothing about them like that. Yeah, so you mentioned Mary Scott, who, when they say Mary, they got y'all thinking that they always referring to somebody's name. And they not always referring to the name. When they be saying Mary, they be calling them a rebellious woman, because they don't want to go along to get along with the bullshit. So they name them Mary, or they call them Mary. And now, when the children being born and they naming girls Mary, she already born with that fire to overthrow the old system, because she in her psyche and her subconscious mind, if she ever been here before, she know they making fun of her by calling her Mary. But we think that that's a good name to have, because somebody named Jesus had a mama named Mary, which was a mockery. Remember, it was more than one Mary. And they called all of the women around him Mary because they was the rebellious ass to the system. They was your Asada Shakurs of the day, your Angela Davises, your motherfucking Afeni Shakurs, your motherfucking Maxine Waters. Those were the ones that they was calling Marys or Miriam. And this was the reason why a lot of people don't have a proper understanding of what the text is saying. Because when you read it in the Greek and you take the J out of the discussion, you got a whole different story. Because it's telling you a story about somebody else. Now they try to make it say Jesus or Yazus. That's not what it say in Greek. In Greek, it's Iesous. It's Isis. So when you're reading the story about Isis, and every time they telling you about her as a mother, they calling her Mary, because they said she gave birth to her son without the aid of the man, so that he can have both the mitochondrial right of the women and the Y chromosome right of the males to rule. All he got to do is be on a straight bump. And then the one that raised him, who in this case we talking about Nenegajita, who was raised by Enki as his father. But the story, y'all know the story best as the story of Loki, the son of the Ice Princess, who was adopted by the old man, and his half-brother Thor, who was the old man's actual son, had usurped him for the throne. In this case, the old man's son, who's masquerading as Thor, is actually his brother masquerading as his son in the story. Because Thor is trying to take the place of Shango in the pantheon, and so he wielded the hammer. The hammer, if you go back to Ragnarok, the opening scene, you will see who the real pure one is, and they call her name Lilith. I'm just saying, I didn't make that shit up. Okay, let me do this. Always at the bottom. And as I read these questions. When this live in, Christine, I'm gonna call you, sweetie. Uh, It's variables to interpreting symbolism. So just because you've seen a white horse on the side of your house is insufficient data to really tell you what it means. All I could do is refer you to the general meaning of the white horse, which is conquer and conquest. Is genealogy necessary to reclaim the land? Yeah, you got to have the blood because the blood is tied to the earth through mitochondria. And if you don't have the blood, you can't exercise the right to your status to reclaim the land. The Epic of the Atrahasis, were they referring to the God of Islam because he had brothers and sisters, but not a god, but a demigod. That his sacrifice for stop working the earth, he was sacrificed using his blood and bones, creating humans to finish the task. Yeah, so this in the Holy Tablets too, and it talks about the one who rebelled, and how they used his blood to create humans. The Lulu Amalu, the primitive worker. Now that was the first creation. This wasn't the genetic defect. This was Inky work, and the Anunnaki whose blood they used, they didn't actually murder him, but they actually used him as a stud to make children. But in the story, because he didn't want to enter and cohabit with the earth women, the sacrifice that he was making by being forced to copulate with them, the Anunnaki likened it unto death. So it was as if they murdered him. But his blood, let's look at the story of Genghis Khan and what percentage of the male population of the earth or the human population can trace back to him. The blood of Fatima is the blood of the righteous. And what they're talking about is the daughter of Muhammad, right? And that was one of his daughters. And so she was born and she was righteous and she was raised and taught hands-on by his wife Khadijah. And Mother Khadijah, in the reverse, was taught hands-on by Claire Muhammad, who represented the prophecies of Fatima that was given to the kids down in South America. And oh man, I look like him. But that's a compliment. But I don't look like him. What does the Japanese government shutting down mean? That's Anu Land. It's not so much the government shutting down that you needed to be looking at. It was the layout of the room because it's a temple. When you look at the layout is a very specific temple. And if you know what temple it is, then you halfway through the struggle of figuring out what's going on with Japan. Why did the Japanese government step down? Japan is not the only government to step down. You got something called the Big Quit taking place in America, and y'all don't even know the sheer number of senators and congressmen that's retiring. They just retiring, walking out the office, and not coming back to work. But it's not hitting the mainstream media, so y'all don't know about it. But you can look up how many senators and quit and congressmen didn't quit in the last 2 years, and your mind gonna fucking be blown. So it's heads of state all over the world stepping down. Governments as whole governments is falling apart because it's the close of the age. So at the close of the age, everybody got to pay for their dirt, and these governments did the dirt, and now they have to surrender the government to the mercy of the people. This is what you're seeing. Uh, well, if you had some specific questions, Grandmaster Bay, about the hoodoo and voodoo, we definitely could talk on it because I'm with the voodoo. Okay, now I think all my questions caught up. Well, I got some more, some new ones. What's next? Do you think there'll be a civil war soon? There ain't no reason for no fucking war because the enemy surrendered when I kicked their ass, right? So there's no reason for a civil war. I mean, if you have anything resembling a civil war, it's gonna be us cleaning up after the motherfucking destruction of Mother Nature. That's probably gonna be the civil unrest that you see in the Civil War. But in the grand scheme, there's no cause or no need for a civil war. This shit is over with. We finna put this shit the way it go and get out these sisters' way so they can go in here and clean this shit up. Get this earth back where it's supposed to be. No, I don't see no civil war coming. I see a bunch of scare tactics to keep you subjugated, though. Well, not only by using the different numerals that they changed the timeline, but they rewrite history by giving us a different history than actually happened, but something similar that we can relate it to, so that we can't know exactly what they was doing. And that's why Noble Drew Ali is important. That's why Marcus Garvey important. That's why Prince Hall important, because they the ones who's telling us, hey, these motherfuckers trying to keep y'all trapped in this motherfucking brain lock. Okay, listen, it's called, when you want to know why they, Lilith was a powerful woman. If you trying to subdue or suppress matriarchy, suppress the actual true power of women, it's the same thing that they did with us by painting all the guys pale. It's the same shit. When they tell you, well, they don't really like to talk about her. First of all, they don't want to talk about Lilith, and she was more like Adam babysitter with his dumb ass than she was like a wife. And she got tired of that dumbass box of rocks that she had to sit there and nurse so that these rotten ass motherfuckers won't start creating shit. And they got mad and had an argument. They kicked her out of the program. But she wasn't with that bullshit. Adam wasn't nothing but a big ass motherfucking autistic lump of mud to her. He was, horrible. No, African guys, Egyptian guys, the American guys, the Asian guys, the Australian guys, the original ancient ones was all the same guys with different cultural attachments. See, you looking at, now, what happened was two priesthoods went to war. The priest loyal to Enki and the priest loyal to Enlil. And they had a conjure war, and here we are kicking their ass in the Badussi about their conjure, weak ass conjure they had. They, thought that they was going to keep a motherfucker perpetually subjugated with that shit. It didn't work. Minutes left, so I can take mammary gland. Now pay attention. The Kufi and the yarmulke is imitating the mammary gland. Do you understand why? Your George Jetson hats. They want to be sure that you pay attention to the spinner is the pasty. The yarmulke is the mammary gland. Because the wisdom is fed to the child from the mother. It is symbolic of them having the wisdom of the mother being absorbed as to suck it from the mammary gland, but it's upside down and backwards. I think you have to let that marinate for a minute. The yarmulke and the kufi mimic the areola on the mammary gland. That's why them bald head motherfuckers still wear them. That's not to cover their bald spot. The little button on it is the nipple, right? They exaggerated in George Jetson with the spinner wheel because they wanted to look like the pasty on the tassels on the dancer's breast to make sure you understand what you're looking at. But we got lost in the symbolism and we didn't pay the sign no attention. You dig? And so we predicate everything up on our religious faith, our political doctrine, social structures, and all of these things. But when the social structure is out of balance, all of the people become out of balance. What do you do when you out of balance? You stagger. So we not walking through life, we staggering through life. Walking in the trance. That's why they call them zombies. The trance is the ignorance of the self, while the artificial ego that was created by external forces molded you into what you are. So now they're looking at you externally, right? And they got you looking on the outside of you to define what you are that can only be defined from the inside of you. So you have to define yourself internally. Now, as you grow older, you hear people talk about they have voices in your head. That's your ancestors. That's everybody that taught you lessons in your life. All that shit just going on at one time because you don't know how to still the mind. That's meditation. You so busy praying, running your goddamn mouth that you can't listen. You got to learn to listen the same way as you learn to talk. You didn't just come out talking English. You had to learn the language. You had to learn the facial expression that go with the word. You had to learn to speak in a certain manner with a certain diction over a period of time. It's the same way spiritually. You have to learn to communicate with yourself spiritually if you wanted that spiritual inner self to spill into the outer world. This is what we have to do. This is the connection that we get through the mother line in a matriarchal system. It's an automatic connection because the mother raises the children in a manner that would be different if he was raised. The father still got a primary role in the life of a child to take a child, especially a boy, and teach him how to be a man and show his daughters how a woman